Great Hobbies presents RCTV, your radio control authority. With your host, Nick Rack.
Fuel him up and get him on the track. Let's see how he's doing. This thing is massive. On this week's episode of RCTV, we have some rock crawling. Also, we're going to be here at John's Hobbies to see the TCS race. Also, we're going to be heading to Strathroy, Ontario to see Chris Holmes in the Monster Truck Final. Then we're seeing a fantastic Russian jet and a biplane. Now, we met Graham DeVries last year down at the Rogers Center when we were doing a bash out there. Now, Graham, what is this twist called that the vehicles are actually doing?
Articulation.
And what does that actually try to do for the vehicles?
You try to keep all your wheels on the ground at all times, or as many as you can. Sometimes you don't actually want too much articulation, mainly because your vehicle will twist too much and it'll try to drive, your front end will be driving one way and your rear end will be driving the other way. You try to make a general articulation amount. I think most people run around 60 degrees max.
For instance, if we picked up this one rear tire, that would be the 60 degree, and that's probably the top of his limit right there. And that's how you keep all four wheels down. Very interesting. Thanks a lot, Graham. This part of the competition where they have that rear wheel steering, I guess it is really important of the setup of it.
Very important to set up. It's also more control of the controller. Trying to remember that you have the rear steer, how to use it, make sure you turn the right way. If you turn the rear steer the wrong way, you can find yourself sliding off a rock or going where you don't want to go. Tire placement is so important in crawling, and even one wrong move can slide off. It's a little bit different class. It's an outlaw class. We're allowed a little bit longer wheelbase, a 14-inch instead of a 12.5, and these trucks have rear steer. They don't have to have rear steer. Some of them will have different types of configurations of rear steer or a rear dig type system, but this particular one is rear steer.
And you see what he's doing. He's trying to bring it as close as he can to that curve so he doesn't get himself tipped over down here at the end.
That's right. He's also trying to avoid that sliding down into that lower course marker.
Now, is that just a one-point deduction every time he touches one of the lower course markers?
If he touches the course marker, it's 10. It's 1 for a reverse, so if you're given the choice of whether you want to hit that course marker or back up and reapproach,
you take the 1.
You always take the 1.
Now, how many deductions does he have so far?
Extremely well so far. He's had 1 reverse, and he's just taking his time. He's a very good driver. This is almost a bone stock axial. He leads his truck pretty stock, but he does extremely well with them.
And there's where that steering, I guess that rear steering comes in handy.
Right.
And as long as he doesn't touch the marker there, he's pretty close to it.
Now he's trying to back up so he doesn't hit that course marker.
So the back up there is just the -1 that he did so far. Better than touching the course marker.
Absolutely.
So it's very much that trigger control, setting up the radio. What does an actual EPA do, first of all?
EPA sets up the amount of throw a servo has. So a lot of us are running digital servos. If the throw is too much, we'll end up burning out a servo. Also, if you want a little bit less rear steer, you can set up the EPA a little bit less. You'll turn more in the front than you will in the back on a truck like this. For crawling, we want usually as much turning radius as absolutely possible. So we a lot of times will modify the axles to get more turning radius out of them and turn up the EPA as high as we can do. The tighter we can turn, the tighter we can get through those really tight course changes. A lot of guys don't run servo savers, we just run servo arms. You get tweaked up in a bad situation where you want the wheels to turn. With a servo saver, it's not going to turn. That's why we run much higher end servos. We want enough power in the servo to basically lift the truck out of a bad situation if we needed to. When I come across here with my 2.2 truck, I don't have rear steer, so it's just kind of this wavy line where my rear tires fell off halfway through. With the rear steer, he can make sure that he stays on, can crab walk the truck, just turn the rear to make sure he stays on that castle, just like he did.
Yeah, and he did that pretty good too.
He's just absolutely doing phenomenally right now. Over a standard 2.2 truck, he has a huge advantage. Look at this turning radius he's got here. He doesn't have to back up, he doesn't have to anything. Just right through like it's not even there.
And most of the other guys had to back up or do a real wide turn.
Right. This is basically the part of the course where we almost made impossible for anybody. So if anyone can make it, it will be extremely impressive. Everyone's been able to get through, but generally they get through with a huge points advantage.
Now what's he trying to do here? He looks like he's trying to rock the truck back over.
He's got a droop setup on this truck.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is a lot of patience, a lot of practice and skill. He knows what his vehicle can do.
Exactly.
Just goes to show you folks that this is not just coming out here and just driving the truck crazily. It's a lot of skill, a lot of patience.
That's right.
Now he's a little bit hung up here, but as long as he doesn't reverse, he's okay here.
He's okay. He can get caught up on that all he wants and look like he's just going to work his rear steer around it, and he's going to be just fine.
Now, if he does have to pick up the truck here, that is also plus 10, right?
Yeah, if you have to touch the truck, I could reposition it as 10. So he definitely doesn't want to pick up the truck and have to move it in any way. This is when patience comes in, and Cam is great for patience. Look at that.
Look at that. Look at that. That was a beautiful run. And we hear all the crowd really appreciates that too.
Controller setup is very important. Where it's an easy thumb controller, you can get to it easily.
Wow, it looks like Cam had that set up. Well, thanks a lot again, Adam.
Thank you.
That was great. Folks, get a crawler, right? It's the newest thing in RC. They're available everywhere, all your local hobby stores.